بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمد الشاكرين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to this live stream today in the middle of Ramadan, in the middle of Ash-Shahrul Mubarak, the blessed month of Ramadan, while we are fasting just before the iftar time here in the UK. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accept our fasts, our siyam, and our qiyam, our standing in prayer. And today's live stream, of course, is on the back of two previous live streams that we have had on this channel. The previous live stream was on Epstein, which was taken down, unfortunately. And the live stream prior to that was on the so-called Board of Peace, the mind child of Donald Trump, warmonger Donald Trump, and the pending war on Iran. So that live stream was on the imminent war on Iran. And now, as we have entered the month of Ramadan, the Zionists cannot help themselves except to attack Muslims in the month of Ramadan. This is something on record from members of the Knesset, that they attack in the month of Ramadan because they deem Muslims as being weak during the month of Ramadan, because Muslims are fasting and therefore do not have the physical strength to fight. That is according to their reasoning. Of course, they are wholly ignorant of Islam. When I traveled to Palestine, to occupied Palestine, from my interactions with practicing Orthodox Jews, it was quite evident that they are very ignorant of Islam, very ignorant of what Islam stands for, very ignorant of Arabs and Arab culture and Arab history. So in this month of Ramadan, we know that the Battle of Badr occurred on the 17th of Ramadan, where 313 Sahaba alayhim ridwan, they defeated the kuffar of Quraysh, the polytheists of Quraysh. It was the most historical battle of Islam in its history, and with smaller numbers, the Muslims were able to defeat their enemies. Now in the month of Ramadan, the Muslims or segments of the Muslim Ummah are warring against the Zionist entity, and we must awaken to the fact that global Zionism, atheism, a Zionism which is atheist in nature, humanistic in nature, capitalist in nature, capitalist with all the negatives, because some people who take their knowledge from X, from Twitter, attempt to be intelligent. They do not take out time to read a book or two. They will take all the information from Twitter and X, and they say to me, perhaps you should qualify, what do you mean by capitalism? Well, when the word is said unqualified, it entails the type of capitalism that we observe now, that capitalism which is exploitative, which damages the environment, which plunders resources, which takes resources in a way that we would say the laws of thermodynamics apply, or entropy, is that you cannot bypass a certain level of extraction of minerals. But when modern capitalism bypasses that and plunders the resources, adding to the problem riba, usury, which is a high number, a number meaning charging people money which does not actually exist, it leads to the state of the world that we are observing today. So banks will loan nations money. Those nations then must pay back a mathematically impossible number. Let's say the debt goes into its trillions. That nation then will plunder its resources in order to pay back some of that debt, and not even the debt, the interest on that debt. Nevertheless, what I am saying is that banking system and globalization is linked, intrinsically linked to what we know as Zionism today. So that is intrinsically linked with Zionism to the point that we know that the Rothschild banking family had a hand in the formation of what is known today as the State of Israel. This banking family is the banking family that bankrolled both sides in the Napoleonic Wars. And then it profiteered from the Napoleonic Wars, from the time of Napoleon, from the late 1700s into the early 1800s. The same Rothschild family that supported prime ministers like Benjamin Disraeli, the only Jewish British prime minister this country has ever had, who declared Queen Victoria as the Empress of India, at that time annexing India, which is Hind really, Biladul Hind, to the British Empire. And at that time, this was post-mutiny, the mutiny of 1857, where tens and thousands of Muslims and Hindus were butchered in what is today known as India and Pakistan and Bangladesh. And then the region was annexed under a Jewish prime minister known as Benjamin Disraeli, of course supported by the Rothschild family. This same Rothschild family then purchases land in what is known as Palestine in the late 1800s, when Zionism is founded, and led initially by Theodor Herzl, who attempts to purchase Palestine from a Sultan Abdul Hamid II, the Caliph of the Ottoman Caliphate in that time. And then, of course, with the abolishment of the Caliphate in 1924, we have had secular nationalist states occupying the sprawling map of the former territories of the Caliphate, vying against one another. Turkey being a fine example of that, but a secular Turkey, but also other nations like the UAE. Now, as we speak, what has happened is US assets in the UAE, Qatar and Bahrain have just been bombed again. And the Hebrew media reports that Netanyahu held a phone call with UAE's president. So the UAE is an ally of the Zionist Pax Judaica occupation of the world today, of the supremacists that attempt to occupy land in the Middle East and at the same time control the global economy and global finance. So recently, in recent events, what occurred is that America, the United States of America, has defense systems that are propped up in different regions of the world, like near North Korea, but also near Iran. The battery of which is valued at $1 billion. From 8 of those mechanisms, 4 have been taken out by Iran. And many of you observing this war, if you are not negligent, which a Muslim should not be negligent of the events that are occurring, because they relate to the end of times, Shiratu Sa'ah, they relate to our Iman, and they relate to the obligation of the defense of the Muslim homeland. So, with the unfolding events, many of you would have observed that the BBC in its coverage, what does it have? If you go through the BBC website or if you watch the channel, they will have reports like Tehran is being bombed by Israel. They will have reports that Israel has tanks within Lebanon, or has military buildup on the border of Lebanon, or Beirut is being bombed. But they will have very little coverage on Tel Aviv being blown to smithereens. Tel Aviv, as we speak, the so-called Iron Dome, is down. And what the BBC likes to point out, what it likes to point out is that what the BBC likes to point out is the number of dead Iranians. But it doesn't point out the number of dead in the Zionist entity. This is the biased nature of the BBC. It also points out the AI videos. So when a missile hits Tel Aviv, some people have been sending out AI versions of those videos. The question is, should we send out those AI versions of the videos blowing up Tel Aviv? The answer is yes. Why? Because al-harbu khid'a. Warfare is propaganda. And Muslims should do propaganda during this war. So some people, what they do, they have the propaganda checked. What they do is that they have the propaganda checked on Twitter, whether this video is AI or not. But in reality, Muslims should be doing propaganda to demoralize the enemy. That is what BBC is doing. So, example of this BBC headline reads, at least 153 dead after reported strike on school, Iran says. But when it's reports regarding Tel Aviv, it says 9 dead in missile attack on Israel as Iran strikes region. So the 153 dead after reported strike on school doesn't mention Israel striking the school with a missile. So the BBC, the rubbish broadcasting corporation, is biased, and so much of the media outlets that we observe, and it's not surprising that they are actually biased. So with regard to what I mentioned earlier, replacing the AN/FPS 132 radar Iran destroyed in Qatar, so the radar that Iran destroyed in Qatar will cost 1.1 billion and take Raytheon 8 years to produce another. So a radar that Iran blew up in Qatar, it will cost 1.1 billion to replace and 8 years to make. One Iranian missile takes out $1.1 million, and it takes 8 years for them to replace that. That is the measurement of the war. Yet, of course, the BBC will not report that. And even Al Jazeera News is, of course, compromised as well, because Qatar is being bombed also. So if you take your news from these news outlets alone, you will not have a complete picture of the war. They do not show the destruction and the level of destruction in Tel Aviv in order to keep the morale high of the Western population and the allies of the West. So the American population is not observing the level of destruction being meted out upon Tel Aviv. They do not hear of the real number of dead amongst the US Marines. And similarly, here in the UK, the coverage is weak. Now, if it were up to Nigel Farage and the Conservative Party, the UK would go into war headfirst. So they criticized Keir Starmer for involving himself only to a limited capacity, even though, of course, Keir Starmer is desperate to get involved. He feels left out. But they criticized the policy of Keir Starmer of having a limited involvement. Of course, the UK bases are being utilized as we speak, not only in Cyprus, but also here in the mainland of the UK. But the party of Nigel Farage and the Conservatives, and what people need to realize is that democracy itself is rigged. It's a rigged system. It's rigged because the funders, those who fund the mainstream political parties, are the same people that support the wars abroad. Those who manufacture weapons, those who control finance and the banking, are the same people who control the political narrative. And the same with the media machine. Once we grasp this, once we grasp the fact that those political parties are, in fact, the policies are written out within a certain framework, they can oppose one another. Within a specific parameter. So for instance, some lefty socialists will call for the removal of Benjamin Netanyahu, but they will not call for the removal of what is known as the State of Israel. They will not advocate for a one-state solution. They will believe advocating for a one-state solution is actually anti-Semitic. They will say Israel needs reforms. The apartheid system needs to finish. Benjamin Netanyahu needs to go. But what they will not say is that the IDF needs to be dismantled, the Knesset needs to be dismantled, the entire state structure needs to be dismantled, and we need and require a one-state Palestine. A Palestine with its historical context restored, its historical culture restored, as it was during the Ottoman period, where people of different ethnicities and religions coexisted. So disputes are permitted within a framework. If you go out of that framework, your disputation is disregarded, you are deemed as being fringe, or the people would face terrorism charges in some cases, like what has happened with Palestine Action. So before we move on, we will be observing some of the videos of the demonic warmonger known as Benjamin Netanyahu. This devil, who has leverage over all the other devils in the Middle East, like the UAE royal family. We will be watching one of his videos now and be listening to what he says with regard to Pakistan. So those of you who are listening, tune in, tell others to tune in. We will be listening, we will be analyzing the war with regard to Pakistan.
Meeting up with nuclear weapons, or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called Iran, the second is called Pakistan, because if these radical regimes have nuclear weapons, they will not obey the rules that have been obeyed in the last almost 7 decades. So that the greatest mission that we have is to prevent a militant Islamic regime from meeting up with nuclear weapons, or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called Iran, the second is called Pakistan.
The video is low on the volume is low on the video, so play it with the high volume.
These radical regimes have nuclear weapons, they will not obey the rules that have been obeyed in the last almost 7 decades. So that the greatest mission that we have is to prevent a militant Islamic regime from meeting up with nuclear weapons.
So as you can see from this video, so this is a common problem. Someone is saying the volume is low, and then someone else says the volume is good. Maybe you should sort out your head system, your own volume. But what I want to comment on this clip of Benjamin Netanyahu. Before doing that, there is a question. Someone asks, do you think the Greater Israel project, Pax Judaica, will be completed? If yes, no, when will it happen on the eschatological timeline? Before or after Mahdi alayhi salam? My answer to you is no, I do not think Pax Judaica, Greater Israel, will be completed. I believe Israel will finish very soon. And there are some people who find that very hard to believe. And I tell you why you find that hard to believe. Why you find that hard to believe is because so many of you have purchased this outlook that Israel and Mossad and the United States of America are untouchable and invincible. Palestine has demonstrated, and this is another feature of propaganda news, what they do, they write Hamas and Israel war. They write Gaza and Israel war. They will not write Palestine versus Israel. It wasn't Hamas versus Israel. It was Palestine versus Israel. In fact, It was Palestine versus dozens of nations that backed the Israeli entity through satellites, through drones, through interception. It was Palestine versus dozens of nations. And additionally, what I want to mention here is that Pax Judaica will not be completed, it will come to an end. We will live to see and witness the demolishing, the dismantling of what is known as Israel and the Knesset, inshaAllah ta'ala, very soon, in our lifetimes. And what I wanted to comment upon was this clip of Benjamin Netanyahu. What I will do is, if you have, I will comment on this clip in English and Urdu. I will comment on this clip in English and Urdu. The first thing is, Benjamin Netanyahu has made it very clear here that two countries are on the list of Netanyahu's list. One of them is Iran. One of them is Iran, and the other is Pakistan. And with regard to Iran, he states, we'll play the clip again. We'll play the clip again.
Or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called, said that the greatest mission that we have is to prevent a militant Islamic regime from meeting up with nuclear weapons, or from nuclear weapons meeting up with a militant Islamic regime. The first is called Iran, the second is called Pakistan, because if these radical regimes have nuclear weapons, they will not obey the rules that have been obeyed in the last almost 7 decades. So that the great...
The first thing is, if you notice here, he says, if these two regimes, so he mentions Iran gaining nuclear weapons, this needs to be prevented. So that war he has started, he has carried out that war, that Iran must be prevented from gaining nuclear weapons. That war has started. The second war, he states, is that Pakistan, which has nuclear warheads, cannot have an Islamic regime, because that would mean an Islamic regime gains access to nuclear warheads, as if Muslims will be the ones to utilize nuclear warheads. The third important point is, he says these nations will not obey the international order that we have had for the past 70 years, as if what is referred to as Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu actually follow any international order. They have impunity, they can carry out whatever they want without any prosecution from anything. The farce of the ICC and the ICG, what does it mean? The farce of the ICC and the ICG. These kind of court spectacles are only constructed to give the impression of international justice. In reality, there is no international justice at the hands of the kafir, of the kafir system, especially the kafir white man system. The kafir white man system does not give international justice. It only applies to Gaddafi, taking out Gaddafi, killing an African leader, Gaddafi, killing Saddam Hussein, an Iraqi leader, killing the Iranian leader, Ali Khamenei, killing these leaders. It only applies to those countries that are deemed as being rogue. Assassinations of different world leaders, kidnapping the Venezuelan leader. What international order are you talking about, Benjamin Netanyahu? And then the war on Iran, what is next is a war on Pakistan. So what I was saying here in the Urdu segment is the balkanization of Muslim countries, whether that be Iraq, or whether that be Syria, or whether that is Pakistan or Iran. So the attempt now is to balkanize Iran, to have a region of the east of Iran being made into a Sunni Balochi province, and the west into a Kurdish province, and then the middle region into a Persian province, led of course by a secular Pahlavi government, even though they have been dismissed at the same time. Then additionally, this was done in Iraq, where Iraq was made into different provinces, and the stupidity was that the Kurds were deemed as a different ethnic group, yet the rest of the country was divided on religious grounds, on the grounds of Shia and Sunni. So that's like saying you take over Ireland and you divide Ireland into Catholic, Protestant and English. It's an absurdity. And similarly in Syria, the attempt is to make Syria into three regions. The Kurdish region in the east near the Euphrates River, the western region of Ladiqiyya being given to the Nusayris and the Druze and other religious minorities, and then the rest of the main cities being given to the majority Sunni population, Arab Sunni population. That is the plans for these regions. And similarly in Pakistan, the idea is to have Baloch separatists, Pashtun separatists, Kashmir separatists, even Sindh separatists, and to divide the country until the country has no vitality. It has no standing, the army, in the international order. Now, aside from this, if you observed Benjamin Netanyahu's claim, the claim was that then the Muslims, the claim regarding, there was a claim made regarding Pakistan, is that every group claims to be a persecuted minority. Every group claims to be a persecuted minority, so they want to demolish the state infrastructure and the army of every state. But then they have no real standing. They have no respectability. They will become like the UAE, paying the Americans billions every year to protect them, and then the Americans, the United States, is unable to protect them. So now we will go on to a second clip, the second clip of Benjamin Netanyahu, which was with regard to the destruction. No, before the rabbi, we'll go on to the destruction.
אבל אז רשות המעולם יגיד מה אתם פוגשים. אתה לא מפחד מעולם, ביבי.
במיוחד היום עם אמריקה, אני יודע מה זה אמריקה. אמריקה זה לא שאפשר להזיז אותו בקלות, להזיז לכיוון הנכון. אבל לא יכולים.
אז שאני אנחנו עושים את משהו, אז הם...
יש עליה, אז נניח שאומרים משהו. 80% מהאמריקאים תומכים בנו. זה אבסורד. לא פחדתי להתאבד שם. לא פחדתי להתאבד עם קלינטון. לא פחדתי להתאבד עם אובמה. מה היו הסכמים אצלו? הסכמי אוסלו שהכנסת חתמה עליהם. שאלו אותי לפני הבחירות, אוקיי, בתנאי כפוף להדדיות וצמצום הנסיגות. אבל איך נצמצם את הנסיגות? אני אתן פירוש להסכם שיאפשר לי להפסיק את הדהירה הזאת לגבי 67. איך עשינו את זה? אף אחד לא אמר מה זה אתרים צבאיים מוגדרים. אתרים צבאיים מוגדרים, אני אמרתי אלה אזורי ביטחון. בקעת הירדן, מבחינתי זה אתר צבאי מוגדר. נכון. זה אוקיי. לך תגיד. אבל אז הייתה שאלה, מי יגדיר מה זה אתרים צבאיים מוגדרים? קיבלתי מכתב מקריסטופר, אליי ולערפאת באותה לשון, שאומר שישראל בלבד היא זו שתגדיר מה הם את מיקום האתרים הצבאיים האלה ואת גודלם. עכשיו, הם לא רצו לתת את המכתב הזה, אז לא נתתי את הסכם כמובן. הפסקתי את ישיבת הממשלה, אמרתי, אני לא רוצה. רק כשהגיע המכתב, תוך כדי הישיבה, אליי ואל הרפ"ק, חתמתי על הסכם. תגיד לו שעדיף לתת 2% מאשר לתת 100%, וזו הברירה שם עומדת כאן הפרק. אתה נתת 2%, ובזה עצרת את הנסיגה הזאת, במקום 100%.
So this in this clip, Benjamin Netanyahu very clearly mentions the destruction or the aggression carried out by what is known as Israel is done in order to undermine the resistance, so that they have no heart in order to resist. And he states that we carry out maximum destruction, but we can take criticism from the US because according to him 80% of the USA actually supports them. But in reality, the state structure of the USA, the finance and the banking, it's all interlinked. All of that is interlinked with the Mossad and with the Knesset. All of this is interlinked. So here, what Benjamin Netanyahu states is that we go maximum against our opponents in order that they do not attack us ever again. That is what he states. Now, there's someone on here who keeps mentioning the non-unity with the Shia based upon the insulting of the Sahaba alayhim ridwan and the Shia theological stance. Firstly, I would say to you with regard to this, that no one debates Shia as much as I do. We have debates, theological debates, some of them are online. But those theological debates we will carry on, and we urge all the Shia not to curse the Sahaba alayhim ridwan. And in fact, some of the clerics of Iran have taken that stance to stop people from cursing the Sahaba alayhim ridwan. But what I would want to say to you is the following. Let me give you an analogy. Turkey has a secular constitution. The founder of Turkey is Ataturk. He's a kafir. Ataturk is a kafir. Turkey has a constitution that is kufr. Erdogan even gets an award based upon those people, awards named after those people who demolished the Ottoman Caliphate. Erdogan is on record saying that the caliphate will never be restored in Turkey because he advocates for a secular state. Advocating for a secular state in a Muslim country or a secular constitution and praising Ataturk is kufr. Yet, if Turkey went to war against Israel and Turks were killed, we would say, Allah have mercy on the shuhada. But that does not mean we advocate for a secular state, for the abolishing of the caliphate. It doesn't mean we advocate for everything Erdogan states or does or believes. So that is an analogy that I have given you in order to give you food for thought. The state we are in, those who are complaining about a lack of Sunni resistance groups against Israel, then I would say, where is the Sunni resistance groups need to be formulated by those who are complaining? The space in Lebanon is open. The space in Syria is open. The space in Turkey is open. These are the nearest countries. Egypt, Jordan, these are Sunni majority countries. There must be Sunni resistance in these countries. It is no good just saying that the Shia, their theology is wrong in this and that. We are not discussing theology. We are discussing the destruction of the enemies of Islam, which is the Zionist entity. So
that's the award he was given, the Sharif al-Hussein bin Ali award.
So recently he was given the Sharif al-Hussein bin Ali award. And anyone who knows about the Sharif al-Hussein bin Ali, he died in 1931. He's the founder of modern day Jordan. He was a traitor to the caliphate, but Erdogan accepted that award. So this discussion regarding Sunni and Shia is out of place, out of context. Sunnis must have their own resistance. Don't complain. Where's our resistance groups? Don't complain. Don't complain about the Shia. The Shia have been making resistance groups. Where are the Sunni resistance groups? Around Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Egypt, the closest borders to the occupied lands, to Palestine today. Secondly, the example I've given you, if any country attacks Israel today, we support that country. So utilize your mind, be cerebral, and do not be emotional with regard to this issue. Now, what was mentioned by the video that I played by Benjamin Netanyahu, he states that they carry out maximum damage without any regard for human life, without any regard for the rights of others, without any regard for humanitarian laws or international laws, simply because he can get away with doing it. So that is what he will attempt to do with Iran. But currently, as we speak, the Iron Dome is down, and inshallah Iran will carry out maximum damage to Tel Aviv and all the occupying cities. So we will go on to a third clip now of Benjamin Netanyahu.
משהו שעדיין משאיר ליבו, אבל תעשו משהו ממה ידיעתו. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, שהיום כבר כמה שעות יתבגר עדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש לי בכל העניינים. מה שישראל לאחרונה, נתפסו כמה עניינים. מה שלא יראות, וגם משהו שעדיין משאיר ליבו, אבל תעשו משהו ממה ידיעתו. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, שהיום כבר כמה שעות יתבגר עדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש לי...
Okay, so in this clip was in this clip, the rabbi, this is the Rebbe, he's known as. This Rebbe, he died in the 1990s. This is the same cult that Donald Trump is a part of. He's a part of his cult, the Messianic rabbinical cult. This cult believes that the events that are occurring now will bring about the Mahdi, the Messiah, not the Mahdi, the Messiah, the Jewish Messiah. So what he says, the Rebbe, to Netanyahu, is that many events have occurred, but the Mashiach is the Messiah, has not appeared yet. Now when they say Messiah, they do not mean Jesus. The Zionist Christians in the Christian Bible Belt in the United States who believe supporting Israel is essential in order to bring about the Armageddon, what they do not realize is that the Jewish people, many of them, curse Jesus. Religious Jews, they curse Jesus. And they do not believe Jesus as being the Messiah. So what he says, is that the Messiah has not yet come, but there is some time left. And this was in the 1990s, around 30 years ago. So you can imagine the mindset of Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is carrying out this war because he believes the Messiah will come. And remember one thing, and I would want to say this to all those people who are not understanding what is happening, was that they would want to eventually destroy Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa to construct a temple. That is one of the final goals. to make Jerusalem into an international city where the UN is relocated back to Jerusalem, or into Jerusalem, not back to, but from the New York current headquarters into Jerusalem. And then from Jerusalem, they construct a third temple. That is their plan. But inshallah, Allah will destroy their plans. And the message for today was, do not fall into the balkanization program of splitting Muslims, of dividing them into ethnic and based on your ethnicity, your language, your nation flags, based upon your sect. Do not allow it. We are at war with supremacists. We are at war with Zionism. And we need to defeat Zionism. So, someone asks, Sheikh, please say something about the girls' school that was being attacked by Israel. The name of the school was Shajara Tayyiba and was attacked the same day when Khamenei died. What was the motive? Now, apparently what the motive was for killing the young children, the building, they claim, you can't believe anything they say, they claim that they utilized an old map. They utilized an old map to target that school. But it's a simple case of child sacrifice that the United States has carried out a child sacrifice like they did in Gaza for 2.5 years. And they killed those young children in cold blood with no mercy, and they carried out a child sacrifice. They claim that the basis for that was in order to, the basis for that was that they utilized an old map. Someone asks, will the fighting the Jews and the who hide behind the rocks and the trees that speak be before Al-Mahdi or after? The answer is, this is after the time, after Al-Mahdi appears and after Isa alayhi salam descends. Shaykh, a hadith mentions that there is a destruction of the Arabs. Do the current events in the Middle East correlate with this hadith? This hadith is mentioned in both Mishkat and Riyadh al-Salihin. Well, actually what this is the وَيْلٌ لِلْعَرَبِ لِلشَّرٍ قَدْ اقْتَرَبَ. Woe to the Arabs from an evil that is approaching. And that destruction occurs later. It occurs later. It occurs actually during the drought, just before the time of Ad-Dajjal, and it occurs during Al-Malhamatul Kubra. These events have not happened yet. So someone says that group believes the first Messiah, the son of Joseph, died on October the 7th and is trying to create conditions for another Messiah, Dajjal, to come. Someone asks, do you think this will die down or escalate into a world war? We could say in one sense we already are living in a world war. Russia is at war with Ukraine, and the United States and what is referred to as Israel are at war with Iran. Someone asks, do you think that Iran's army will turn out to be the promised Black Flag Army? How early or late do you see the emergence of Black Flag's army? The answer is no. I do not believe the current groups that we have are the Black Flag's army. Someone was saying earlier that whether Ali Khamenei is the Khurasani, and I said no. You cannot say the Khurasani. He died now. He was killed. So making these predictions goes against the methodology which I outlined in Navigating the End of Time. So we will take your last few questions inshallah ta'ala before finishing. Who is Baal mentioned in the Quran? Is he a jinn? Baal was a false god that was worshipped by Bani Israel. He is mentioned in Surah Al-Safat, one of the false gods. And of course, Epstein was utilizing accounts which the name of the account was Baal. Someone asks, is there any hadith where Iran, Egypt and Iraq will become poor due to wars? The answer is yes. It's Egypt, Iraq and Syria, Sham. The hadith is in Sahih Muslim. Someone asks, what is Al-Malhamatul Kubra and what events lead to it? Al-Malhamatul Kubra is a major war that happens in the 7th year of the rule of the Mahdi. It's not yet. It's in the 7th year of the rule of the Mahdi. Someone asks, does the sign of the Jew hiding behind the tree not conflict with the opinion Israel will fall? The answer is no. That's a different war. That will happen because there will be 70,000 Asfahani Jews following the Dajjal. 70,000 from Asfahan, which is today in Iran. So the map will undergo a major change. The wars we are witnessing now, we will witness a major shake-up of the region. Someone asks, how likely is it the Euphrates gold will be uncovered in the next 4 to 5 years? You mentioned the Euphrates gold being uncovered in the next 4 to 5 years. But if you look at statistics, the river, the water levels are going down currently as we speak. Allah knows best, but it can happen very soon. Someone states Shaykh Ahmad Yasin reportedly said something similar and suggested that Israel could end around 2027. Yes, inshallah, in the next live stream we will play that clip from Shaykh Ahmad Yasin regarding 2027, rahimahullah ta'ala. Someone says, Shaykh, please tell us whom to follow in India as Ahl Sunnah, because many scholars take Ahl Sunnah as title but support grave worshipping and grave rituals. Well, rituals around graves are not essential to be a Sunni. You do not have to over-venerate graves. You make dua for the person buried in the grave. You visit a grave. These are from the Sunnah. Stick to what is found in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Someone asks, Shaykh, could you explain the significance of the red heifer and how mainstream this belief is? I also heard that one was sacrificed around last year. Yes, we did a live stream on the red heifer. You will find the live stream on my live stream list. You will find the live stream I did on the red heifer. So they believe that a perfect red heifer needs to be sacrificed in order to bring about the coming of the Messiah. Someone asked, what stance of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah on the Russian-Ukraine war? Well, what we do know is that Zelensky is a pea from the same pod as Benjamin Netanyahu. Zelensky is a troublemaker. We do not stand with Ukraine. Russia has a right to defend itself, as does Iran. So we will play the clip of Shaykh Ahmad Yasin. This was an interview given by Shaykh Ahmad Yasin regarding Israel finishing by the year 2027.
إسرائيل ده إن شاء الله في القرن القادم في الربع الأول منه. وبالتحديد أنا بقول 2027 بتكون إسرائيل مش موجودة.
لماذا هذا التاريخ؟
لأنني أؤمن بالقرآن الكريم. القرآن حدثنا أن الأجيال تتغير كل 40 سنة. الأرض الأولى كانت أن نكبة. الأرضين الثانية بدأت أن انتصابة ومواجهة وتحدي وقتال وقنابل. الأرضين الثالثة تكون النهاية إن شاء الله تعالى.
يعني هذا تقييم من
هذا استشفاف قرآني.
استشفاف قرآني.
ربنا لما فرض على بني إسرائيل في سنة 40 عام إيش؟ يغير الجيل المريض التعبان ويأخذ جيل مقاتل. وجيلنا الأولاني النكبة راح، فجيل الطار والقنابل والجيل الجاي هو جيل التعليم إن شاء الله. أنا أقول إن.
So here the clip that we are playing, Shaykh Ahmad Yasin rahimahullah ta'ala, he states that every 40 years a new generation is raised. So he says, according to his study of the Quran, by 2027 a new generation will arise that will finish what is known as the State of Israel. So in 1948 was the Nakba, where the Palestinians were forcefully removed from Palestine, over 800,000 of them. And then after that, in 1987 was the Intifada, and then in 2027 he says is the end of Israel. Now, but before 2027 these events have occurred. The generation of the resistance, the generation of the resistance that we see. Here someone asks, why is Ammar Naqshbandi is uploading videos insulting the Sahaba? Why now? What is his goal? What I believe is that you have useful idiots in every group. You have useful idiots in every group, and Ammar Naqshbandi is a useful idiot. So Ammar Naqshbandi will place videos insulting Sahaba. The Shia who insult Sahaba are useful idiots. And then additionally, those who call for disunity against Israel are also useful idiots. So at this time, our live stream is specifically about taking on Israel. Because even in Syria, if people are celebrating what is happening in Iran, and of course people had family members killed by Shia militias, this is true. There were Shias who carried out crimes in Syria. And some people are celebrating what is happening in Iran. But what they do not realize is Syria is open game now for Israel. Israel occupies South Syria. It can take land. It can take Damascus at will. So Syria does not have any defense system at this particular time. Similarly, without Hezbollah in Lebanon, what is known as Israel can take the land within Lebanon. And it can take Jordan at any time. This is an expansion of Pax Judaica at this current time that we are witnessing. So do not be the useful idiot, the useful Sunni idiot or the useful Shia idiot. In a live stream while I'm discussing this, why would someone want to ask me about istighatha? Why are people asking me about istighatha? Why are you asking me about other issues when I'm discussing Greater Israel? Have you lost your mind? Do you not have brain cells? The current live stream is not about istighatha. It's not about other issues. Yes, I will say the Shia who insult Sahaba are useful idiots. And the Sunnis who do not take a firm stance against Israel are also useful idiots. So inshallah I will be taking your last few questions, and then we will be closing for the fast. We have the time of iftar is approaching. Someone says some scholars considered istimna bil yad as not haram. Would following this opinion make one sinful? The answer is al-istimna bil yad is haram, but the position you mention is in Maraq al-Falah, which mentions someone who is overwhelmed. There's a context to that passage in Maraq al-Falah. Someone states, Shaykh, can we interpret the movement of stars and planets to predict the next moves of Israel and counter them? Allegedly, the Israeli launched an attack on Iran on the same day all planets were aligned. No, this is haram. Shirk in Islam, astrology. In Islam, astrology is shirk. Someone asks, Shaykh, do you think the plan for Greater Israel will succeed? The answer is no. It will fail. You're observing it fail. Share the videos where Tel Aviv is being obliterated. Someone asks, is this World War III for the discovery of black gold according to Sheikh Imran Hussein oil? The answer is no. It is not the war for oil in that sense. Is the Pakistani attack on Afghanistan coordinated with this war? The answer is, I had an address earlier in Urdu, I answered this, but I will say that why is the Taliban group operating in Pakistan? You have the Pakistani Taliban operating within Pakistan. You have ISIS that carried out the bombing of a Shia masjid in Pakistan. Similarly, you have the Balochi separatists active in Pakistan. All of this happens during the events that are occurring. Inshallah, we will finish there, and I'll be seeing you soon. Keep Palestine in your dua and the Muslim resistance. Inshallah ta'ala, we do dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enables us to witness the defeat of what is known as Israel. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.